The conference room on the 88th floor of Night Tower smelled like leather, money, and pure rage. I slammed the contract down in front of Alexander Knight. He was America's most terrifying billionaire, Forbes man you never say no to 3 years running. He did not even look up from his phone. He said, "Sit, Miss Carver," his voice low and bored and lethal. I stayed standing. I am not signing this insane thing. Now he looked up. Ice blue eyes, sharp jaw, the kind of face that launched hostile takeovers and wet dreams in equal measure. He leaned back, suit stretching over shoulders that definitely did not come from a tailor alone. "Your father's company dies in 9 days. Sign, and I bail it out. Do not sign, and 3,000 employees, including your dad, hit the street by Christmas." I laughed, cold and sharp. "So, you are blackmailing me into marriage. Very romantic." He stood, all 6'4" of him, and walked around the table until he towered over me. He did not touch me. He did not need to. The air itself bent to him. "It is a merger, Harper. 6 months. You play perfect wife in public. I save your family legacy. Then we divorce quietly, and you walk away with 50 million and your father's pride intact." I folded my arms. "And in private?" His mouth curved, not quite a smile. "In private, you can hate me all you want. You just cannot let the cameras see it." I snatched the Mont Blanc from his hand, flipped to the last page, and signed Harper Carver in bold, furious strokes. Then I threw the pen at his chest. It bounced off a body that felt like marble under silk. "Congratulations, husband," I hissed. I hoped he would choke on me. He caught the pen midair without blinking. "Careful, wife." He said he had excellent swallowing reflexes. Heat shot straight between my thighs. I hated him for it. He extended his hand, palm up. I stared at it like it might bite. "Keys to the penthouse," he said. "You are moving in tonight. The press is already downstairs." I slapped my apartment keys into his hand, hard enough to sting. He did not flinch. He just closed his fingers around them and around my fate. "Welcome to hell, Harper. Population me and the devil in Tom Ford." That evening, the internet exploded. Hashtags billionaire Alexander, nightmare sin secret ceremony, and whoish Harper Carver and Cinderella lore hostage were trending worldwide within an hour. I stood in the glass palace he called home, 70 floors above Manhattan. I wore his ring that could buy a private island and watched the city light up with our names. He walked up behind me, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "To hostile takeovers," he said in a toast. I took the glass, then poured it straight down the front of his white shirt. The liquid soaked through, clinging to every ridge of muscle. He looked down, then back at me, eyes glittering. "That is going to cost you, Mrs. Knight." I stepped closer, tilted my chin. "Bill me." He moved so fast, I did not see it coming. 1 second, I was defiant. The next second, my back hit the window and his mouth was on mine. Champagne sweet and brutal. He kissed like he negotiated, no mercy and total domination. I kissed back harder, biting his lip until I tasted blood. He growled, hand sliding under my thighs, lifting me against the glass like I weighed nothing. The city watched us 69 floors below. Let them. When he finally let me breathe, his voice was rough. "The bedroom is that way. Run, and I chase. Stay, and I ruin you for anyone else." I smiled, slow and dangerous. "Ruin me, then. But remember, I bite back." He laughed, dark and delighted, and carried me toward the bedroom. The war had just begun, and I was going to win. The first month of marriage is a battlefield with Egyptian cotton sheets. Alexander wakes at 5 a.m., works out like he is punishing his own body, then disappears into meetings until midnight. I wake at 9, post perfectly curated couple photos, smile for paparazzi, and spend the rest of the day quietly moving money out of the accounts he thinks I do not know about. Was it petty? Maybe. It is absolutely satisfying. The only time we are forced together is at night in that ridiculous bed big enough for a small kingdom. Rule number 4 of the contract says that separate bedrooms are forbidden. The public has to believe there is passion. So every night he comes home, showers, walks out in nothing but low-slung sweatpants, and slides in beside me like hewn from marble and sin. I pretend to sleep. He pretends not to notice I am faking. That lasts until the night I come home late from dinner with my best friend Mia. I kick off my heels in the dark foyer, turn, and walk straight into a wall of bare chest. Alexander catches my arms before I fall. Where were you? His voice is quiet, too quiet. I say I was out, and that the contract allows it. His grip tightens. He asks if it was with the guy who had his hand on my back in the photos. I laugh in his face. Are you jealous, husband? We are not actually together. Something dangerous flashes in his eyes. He backs me against the hallway mirror and cages me with his arms. He tells me that while I wear his ring, no one else touches me, contract or not. I lift my knees slowly between his legs, just hard enough to make him inhale sharply. I call him possessive for a man who bought me like a company. He leans in until his lips brush my ear. He says he did not buy me, he saved me, and he is starting to think he underpaid. Then he kisses me, not like the first night, this time slow and deliberate and devastating. I melt before I can stop myself. When he pulls back, I am breathing like I have run 10 blocks. He smirks, turns, and walks away. He leaves me wrecked against the mirror. Bastard! 2 days later, he flies to Tokyo for a week. I tell myself I am relieved. I throw a party in the penthouse with 20 friends, dance on the kitchen island, and drink his 1982 Chateau Margaux straight from the bottle. At 3 a.m., my phone lights up with a video call from Alexander. I answer, tipsy and defiant. He is in a hotel robe, hair wet, eyes stormy. Are you having fun destroying my liver? I tell him his liver can afford it. He stares at me for a long second. He tells me to take off the dress. I laugh and tell him to make me. The call ends. 30 minutes later, the private elevator dings. He walks in, wearing the same robe, and a private jet worth of fury. Water is still dripping from his hair. He has flown 14 hours to murder me or to fuck me. Maybe both. The party guests mysteriously vanish within 60 seconds. He does not speak. He just lifts me off the island, throws me over his shoulder, and carries me to the bedroom. Clothes hit the floor in pieces. That night, he does not ask. He takes and I give spectacularly. At dawn, he traces the bite mark on my shoulder, his voice rough with sleep. Do you still hate me? I turn in his arms and say I am working on it. He smiles against my neck. He says that is good, and that hate sex is his favorite. I punch his chest. He catches my fist and kisses my knuckles. He tells me to stay in that bed when he is gone, because he does not share. I roll on top of him and tell him neither do I. We do not leave the bedroom for 2 days. The internet explodes again. This time, there are blurry photos of Alexander Knight carrying his wife fireman style into the elevator. My legs wrapped around his waist and my dress half gone. The headlines write themselves. Ice King melts. Hostile takeover turns hostile makeout. I stop moving money out of his accounts. He stops sleeping in the guest room when he travels. We still fight, but now the fights end naked and screaming each other's names. I hate how much I do not hate it. 2 months in, the annual Knight Foundation Gala arrives like a glitter-coated landmine. Alexander needs to prove to the board that his impulse marriage is not a liability. I need to prove I am not a decoration. We agree on one thing. Tonight the world will see a united front. We do not agree on how that happens. At 7:15 p.m., I walk downstairs wearing the dress he had delivered, emerald silk so dark it looks black until the light hits. The neckline plunges into dangerous territory, and the back is completely open to the base of my spine. Alexander stands at the bar in a tuxedo cut so sharp it could slice diamonds. He turns with his glass halfway to his lips and freezes. The crystal trembles in his hand and I smirk. I tell him to close his mouth because he is drooling on Tom Ford. He sets the glass down very carefully and tells me I am trying to kill him. I tell him only a little. He crosses the room in 3 strides, spins me, and runs one possessive hand down my bare spine. He calls the dress a weapon, and I tell him that tonight I need ammunition. He leans in with his lips brushing my ear and tells me to behave, or he will drag me into the coat check and ruin me before dessert. I shiver and hate that he feels it. Then I toss out promises. The ballroom at the plaza is a sea of diamonds and envy. We walk in hand, every camera in New York swiveling toward us. Alexander's grip is steel, and I smile like a queen who knows exactly how sharp her crown is. Then Victoria Langford appears. Tall and blonde with legs for days. His ex-fiancée until 6 months ago. The one the tabloids still call the one who got away. She kisses his cheeks, and then looks me over like I am yesterday's trash. She calls me Harper in that quaint tone, and says Alexander always did love a charity case. I smile sweetly and call her Victoria darling and ask if she is still wearing last season, telling her how brave it is. Her eyes narrow and Alexander's hand tightens on my waist. A mix of warning and pride. I cannot quite read. Victoria leans in and tells me he will get bored. He always does. I step closer with my voice low enough. Only she can hear, and tell her I will just have to keep him very, very busy. Her smile cracks. Across the room, the auction begins, and Alexander bids on everything, casually dropping 8 figures like loose change. Then lot 47 appears, a 1970s Cartier Panther necklace in diamonds and onyx, the one Grace Kelly once wore. Victoria bids first, and Alexander counters. She raises, and he raises higher. They go back and forth until the price hits $15 million and Victoria smirks, certain she will win. Alexander looks bored and calmly offers $25 million. Gasps ripple through the room, and Victoria's face goes scarlet. Alexander turns to me and tells me to turn around. Wife. Right there in front of 500 people, he clasps the necklace around my throat, lets the panther rest exactly between my breasts, and kisses the spot where metal meets skin. The cameras go insane, and Victoria looks ready to combust. I touch the necklace and tell Alexander he did not have to do that. He says he wanted to, simply and without the usual armor. Something warm and terrifying cracks open in my chest. Later on the terrace with snow falling soft and silent, he pulls me against him. He asks if I am cold, and I shake my head. He shrugs out of his jacket anyway, and drapes it over my shoulders. The jacket smells like him, cedar, and smoke and money. I look up and ask why he really married me, Alexander. He is quiet so long. I think he will not answer. Then he says that the first time I walked into his office ready to burn it down, he knew he would never be bored again, and that he has been bored his entire life. Harper. I swallow and tell him that is not exactly love language for him, huh? He laughs softly and says he is learning. I rise on my tiptoes and kiss him slow and sweet in the snow. When we pull apart, he rests his forehead against mine and tells me to stay after the 6 months. My heart stops, and I remind him that was not the deal. He says he does not care about the deal anymore. I search his face and ask if he means it. He kisses me again, deeper and desperate, and tells me to come to bed and find out. We do not make it past the limo. Month 4. The calendar says we have 8 weeks left on the contract, but the penthouse does not feel like a war zone anymore. It feels like a home. I am terrified to lose. Alexander starts with small, almost shy things that wreck me more than the grand gestures. He learns how I take my coffee, oat milk with 2 sugars and no foam. He stocks the fridge with the peach yogurt I crave at 2 a.m. He leaves the bathroom light on when I fall asleep reading, because he notices I hate total darkness. I pretend not to notice, but I notice everything. Then the past comes to collect. It arrives, wearing Laubautins and a venomous smile. Victoria leaks a story to page 6 with exclusive photos of Alexander and her in Aspen last Christmas. The caption screams that the real Mrs. Knight will always be her. The photos are real. Taken 3 weeks before he proposed our merger marriage. I stare at my phone over breakfast, thumb hovering, and my heart doing something ugly. Alexander walks in with his hair wet from the shower and a towel low on his hips. He takes one look at my face and knows something is wrong. He starts to say my name, and I slide the phone across the table. He glances at the screen and his jaw turns to granite. He swears she is lying, and that nothing happened in Aspen, and that they were over. I stand and ask him if they really were over. He steps closer and says he has not touched her since the day he met me. I laugh, brittle and sharp, and remind him he met me the day he blackmailed me. He flinches, actually flinches, and admits he was an asshole, and he knows it. He swears he has not wanted anyone else since the second I threw that pen at his chest. I want to believe him. God, I want to believe him. Old Harper whispers that men like Alexander Knight do not change. My father lost everything because he trusted the wrong people, and that ghost still lives in my bones. So I grab my coat and tell him I need air. He catches my wrist and tells me not to run. I look at his hand and then at him and say I am not running. I am walking, and there is a difference. I leave him standing in the kitchen, towel slipping and eyes wrecked. For 3 days, we live like polite strangers. We sleep in separate bedrooms and trade civil nods in the hallway. I work 16-hour days launching the new Carver Foundation with the money he quietly transferred into my name months ago. He sleeps at the office. On the 4th night, I come home at 2 a.m. and find the penthouse dark, except for the city lights. Alexander sits on the living room floor with his back against the sofa and a bottle of Macallan between his knees. He looks up when I walk in, drunk and devastated and still unbearably beautiful. He says he fired his entire PR team for letting that story run. I tell him I do not care about the story. He says he does, and that he cares that it hurt me. I fold my arms and tell him he does not get to be hurt because he wrote the rule book. He laughs, broken and raw, and says he burned the rule book the night I let him kiss me in the snow. Then he steps closer and tells me he loves me, Harper. The words hit like a bullet I do not see coming, and I back up until the wall stops me. I tell him he does not get to say that now. He says he has loved me since the day I told him to choke on me. He crowds me with his palms flat beside my head and lists all the ways he loves me. He loves the way I fight him and steal his hoodies and eat peach yogurt with a fork when I think he is not looking. He loves that I turned his sterile tower into a home, and he repeats that he loves me, not the contractist, me. Tears burn my eyes, and I hate crying in front of anyone. He sees them anyway and wipes them away with gentle thumbs. I whisper that I am terrified. He says he is terrified too, but he is more afraid of losing me in 4 weeks. I look up at him and tell him to tear up the contract. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out the original document, and rips it in half right there. Then he tears it into quarters and then into eighths and lets the pieces flutter to the floor like white confetti. He says, done in a voice that shakes a little. I stare at the mess and call him an idiot and remind him it was legally binding. He drops to his knees in the shredded paper and asks me to marry him again. Real this time. He promises no expiration date and no escape clause. My heart tries to climb out of my throat, and I tell him to ask properly. He smiles, soft and hopeful, and mine. He calls me Harper Carver Knight and the love of his goddamn life, and asks if I will stay married to him and fight with him and steal his hoodies and let him love me stupid every single day until we are old and annoying. I tackle him into the paper snow and say, yes, you beautiful, impossible man. He kisses me like the world is ending and beginning at once. We do not make it to the bedroom. We make love on the floor among the ruined contract, slow and desperate and laughing through tears. Later, tangled and breathless, he traces the necklace still around my throat. He murmurs that 6 months starts now. I smile against his chest and tell him forever starts now. 1 year later, exactly to the day we tore up the contract, Alexander wakes me at 5 a.m. With kisses down my spine in a blindfold, he tells me to get up, Mrs. Knight. I groan into the pillow and complain that it is still dark, and the only thing allowed to touch me this early is coffee. He laughs slow and wicked, and says the coffee is already in the helicopter, and that I need to move. I let him blindfold me, dress me in cashmere, and carry me barefoot to the roof. The helicopter lifts off before I finish my first sip. When the blindfold comes off, we are landing on a tiny island off the coast of Maine with a white clapboard lighthouse and wild roses everywhere. The ocean roars like it is personally offended by how happy we are. A single table waits on the cliff, set for two, with white linen snapping in the wind. He pulls out my chair and tells me happy real anniversary. Harper. I look around and there is no staff and no phones. Just us and the sunrise painting everything gold. He serves peach yogurt in a crystal bowl and perfectly burnt toast because he still cannot cook, but he tries every morning anyway. We eat barefoot in the grass, the wind whipping my hair across his face. After breakfast, he takes my hand and leads me to the lighthouse. Inside, spiral stairs climb up to the lantern room. He has turned it into a tiny home with a bed under the glass dome and books everywhere, and a record player spinning Sinatra. On the wall hangs a new frame. Inside the frame, our original shredded contract is glued back together like a mosaic, every piece in place. Across it, he has handwritten a new line in his sharp scrawl that amends the contract to read forever with no signatures required, and just love. I stare and tears come instant and ridiculous. He drops to one knee right there and pulls out a new ring, a simple platinum band with a single line of diamonds shaped like an infinity symbol. He says he already has my yes, but he wants the whole world to see it every day for the rest of our lives. I tackle him onto the bed and say yes again and always. You beautiful lunatic. We do not leave the lighthouse for 3 days. On the 4th day, we emerge only because the mainland sends a boat with groceries and a message. The message says the Carver Knight Foundation has just hit 1 billion in donations, and that the board requests our presence next week. We fly back tanned and salt-crusted and disgustingly in love. The gala celebrating the milestone is held in the same ballroom where he once bought me a panther necklace to spite Victoria. This time I wear a white gown and the infinity ring. Victoria is there, of course, but she has lost her column and her sponsors and her relevance. She tries one last barb as I pass, and asks if I am still playing Cinderella. I smile slow and sweet, and tell her I am not Cinderella anymore. I bought the castle. Alexander appears behind me with his hand sliding possessively around my waist. He says, loud enough for the circle to hear, that I own half the kingdom now, and the other half is in a trust for our future children. Gasps and cameras and chaos follow. I turn in his arms and repeat the word children, plural. He shrugs with a grin and says practice makes perfect. I kiss him right there in front of everyone, long and shameless and very married. The headlines the next morning are glorious. One screams that Alexander Knight is off the market forever. Another says Harper Knight is now co-chair of a $47 billion empire. A third claims the power couple is redefining what a dynasty looks like. That night we stand on our balcony with the city glittering below, like it belongs to us. It kind of does. He wraps his arms around me from behind with his hands splayed over my stomach. He asks if I think we have made a tiny billionaire yet. I laugh and lean back into him and say there is only one way to find out. He spins me and lifts me and carries me inside. The war that started with blackmail and a ruined shirt ends in laughter and peach yogurt and forever. Every year on our real anniversary, we go back to that lighthouse. There are no phones and no empire, just us and the ocean and the sound of two hearts that learned how to beat in the same rhythm. Some marriages are mergers, but ours becomes a masterpiece. Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.